Yeah, so I still get questions on the camera lenses I use, you know. A few weeks ago, someone was asking about my Canon 70 to 210 review that I did several years ago, and the reality is I no longer use this lens. It's the picture quality is a lot less than the prime lenses of this era. I use old school lenses exclusively. I prefer the Canon FDs because they're good cost per value, but this is a zoom lens, the 24 to 70. In other words, it zooms, which is all right, but you lose a lot of image quality. And even though it zooms 270, I use the 135 millimeter focal length more than anything. And so what I did to replace it was I just bought a 135 millimeter lens. It also has a macro function at the 70 millimeter focal length, so you can get really up close, which is what you saw the early shot. Well, I bought a 50 millimeter macro lens to replace that. So these two lenses essentially replace that one there. Before we go outside, this is known as a telephoto lens, which means you can see stuff long ways away. Here we are right here inside the house, right by the window. And we're just peering out in the backyard at the old basketball hoop that was here when I moved in. And that's about, well, I know it's about 150, oh, it's about 200 feet away. You can also pan here and see the workshop of a neighbor there. It's easily about 100 yards, about a football field's length from here to that little shed. Okay, so here on the back porch, you can really see the advantage of having a long lens like this. It's really, telephoto means you almost look like, it's the same base word as telescope. It's almost like you're looking through a telescope. If you want that, you're way far off looking, trying to peer in through a telescope or a looking glass. Do you see the trash can there? We're just cleaning out the truck, trying to get it, but notice we're here easily 50 yards from that, and it doesn't, you can tell we're a long way away, but you can see generally what's in the, talking about wildlife, let's check out that little doggy here. He has no idea that I'm even here. And look at him, now he sees me. Really, doggy? I'm so far away from him, he's just not really concerned with me. And this is what all the National Geographic guys do. They'll have 300 millimeter lenses. They'll have big honking lenses. I'm not going to go through all the technical specifications of this lens because there's plenty of that online. And there he goes. He may be marking territory. And there he goes, just happy as can be. Shaggy doggy. And there he goes. Just, you know, that's, if you know, 135 millimeter, you can do that. For sake of comparison, this is exactly the same shot with my 24 millimeter lens. Do you see the massive difference? This is a wide angle lens, the absolute opposite end of the spectrum. It gets everything. But if and most of you who are on YouTube, this sort of wide angle shot is what you're most accustomed to seeing. Everything's wide angle, and people, because they're just using GoPro cameras and stuff, they don't know the difference in focal lengths that one focal length can provide. If I had shot that little dog, it would have looked so incredibly uninteresting. It would have been the most boring thing ever. And that's what I see in a lot of YouTube videos. Okay, now this is the same 24 millimeter lens up close. Compare it to what the first picture you saw me of my face was on a 50. You typically see more, but it's a little bit more distorted. Now, it almost makes me look like, like I'm insane, if you, right? But that's okay for utility purposes. I love the Canon FD lenses because they're the most cost-effective of the lenses. You can buy them cheaply. Canon made millions of them. You can get them on eBay. I bought that about $60 with the shipping from a seller in Japan on eBay. Sort of an overview of the Canon 135 millimeter lens. It's great for out there on the river, doing any kind of wildlife. It's probably not the perfect wildlife lens, but it does get you into that, that focal length where you can stand off 100 yards from the animal. I was about 50 yards from that dog or so. And the dog, well, he was aware that I was here, but he was no concern. He didn't go running off. If I had a 300 millimeter lens, I would have been able to double my length, and probably the dog wouldn't have even known that I was even there. You use a telephoto lens in those situations where you want to, it's like you're spying in. It's like you're using a telescope to look in, because essentially telephoto lenses are essentially telescope lenses on a camera. They give you the same effect of being far off but looking in close. That's a very specific look, as opposed to being far off and looking at everything like you saw with the 24. Different lenses give different looks, and they're meant to be used in different situations. And the only way to know which lenses to use is to buy the lenses and start using them, and to begin to flesh out what you see up here through to the camera, to make more interesting outdoors videos or whatever kind of videos you're doing, especially here with the fishing videos. See, get your lenses and don't worry about capturing fishing videos. Just get out here and start capturing footage just in your own yard to see what's interesting to you. You'll learn a lot about what the lens can and can't do just from filming things in your own backyard. So with that, let's cue the cinematics.